Hi, folks. This is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report. I talked to my buddy Will Clute on the reservation, and Will's been going out in open water and fishing walleyes. And I said, well, I know it's really difficult for a lot of people to get out on open water right now. They don't have the docks, their boats have been put away. But if you were able to fish open water in the St. Lawrence River right now, where are you finding the walleyes? Because Will's been going out and just having a blast fishing walleyes. He said, well, most of the walleyes are in 25 to 40 feet of water right now, but it depends on the time of day, and it also depends if the day is overcast. And here's the reason for that, if you don't know walleyes that much. Number one, they're really, really light sensitive. So on a bright day, they're not going to be nearly as active as they are on a cloudy day. Second of all, in the morning, he said these fish are moving into shoals in after bait that is there in shallow as 10 feet of water. Here's one of the things that I found interesting. I said, well, so tell me, what size baits are you using and what baits are you using? Well, Will has his Gacho bait business, so he already has baits that he makes, and he's going to use those, and those are soft plastic baits. So he says we're catching them on either my drop shot baits or swim baits. They're both soft plastic, and he said the baits are 4 to 6 inches long. He did tell me that he's catching the bigger walleyes. Now, this is kind of common sense, but he says he's catching the bigger walleyes on bigger baits. And when you think of it, especially in times of cold water, like winter conditions, fish don't have, their metabolism is much slower. They don't have the energy. So they instinctively know that it's going to take less effort and they're going to expend less energy by eating something big. They can get all those calories, all that nutrition in one activity as opposed to biting a whole bunch of little things. And so I know that's oversimplifying in a way, but it really isn't. He says most of the bigger fish are hitting bigger lures that he's using. He said the other thing, I said, are you catching any bass when you're doing this? Because one thing I've noticed in the St. Lawrence River, if you look at videos from people that are out there catching, especially the pros, because they got videos and they got screens that show them everything, but you will notice that often smallmouth and walleyes are together feeding in the same area. And he says, yeah, we're still catching bass, but he says it's much slower. They tend to react to things that are much slower. They're not going to chase something. He did say that he was catching some really nice walleyes using deep diving crankbaits that will go down into that 20 plus feet range. So again, it's all knowledge that we can store, that we can use. We know if we're going to be ice fishing, once the ice does form, that you're not going to be able to do any of these lateral things that Will does. The other thing I want you to realize is you can use drop shot baits in the drop shot technique in ways other than the ways that you see the pros doing it where they're drifting out in the St. Lawrence River. You can use it and cast out. And what the drop shot technique gives you is it keeps your weight on the bottom and it keeps your lure up in the water column where you're most likely to catch the fish. And you have to decide what place in the water column this is. I got to tell you, Will has been asking me to go out and do this walleye fishing, and the thought of fishing out there in open water, trekking miles over open water with the temperature in the 20s at best, it's a little bit difficult for me to get excited. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meisner with the North Country Fishing Report.